So there's a question I know a lot of you have about rhythm gamers, and it's why do we use DFJK, ASCL, all of those? Why do we use those? Why don't we use arrow keys or WASD? Why do we do that? Well, you see, the answer is actually pretty simple, and if you're asking this, you're probably new to the community. It is simply, drumroll please, it's because of the way your fingers are placed in your keys. That's literally the only reason. Just look at it. So that's it, right? Video's over. This might as well be a short, but unfortunately, it isn't because there's this little thing I like to call reference. So, preferences and muscle memory. What do I mean by this? Well, let's take a non-rhythm game example. For example, my dad. My dad has grown up playing games with a controller. Back when I didn't have a semi-decent PC and I only could play browser games, we played them together because that was the only thing we could play. One of the questions he would constantly ask me whenever we played a shooter was, can I play this with a controller? I always found this a bit curious because just use the thing that's in front of you. However, as I've grown older and wiser, I've come to realize why my dad wanted to use a controller. It's what he grew up with. It's what he's used to playing with. To him, switching to a keyboard and mouse is like whiplash, and nowadays to me it is too whenever I play a shooter. Especially something like Fortnite, which I'd rather play with a controller since due to the building. But I'm getting out of hand. This is a rhythm game video after all. When I first started playing rhythm games, I was thrown off by the idea of DFJK. It was so awkward and weird for me. But as I played more and more rhythm games, I slowly started to appreciate it. Ironically, the game that made me appreciate DFJK were Friday Night Funkin' mods, which I will not install to my PC, thank you very much, to get footage from. Friday Night Funkin' mods actually helped me get accustomed to DFJK. And afterwards, it was always my go-to for rhythm games. When I first started playing Vivid Stasis, which is the game that you're seeing in the background right now, I got thrown off because the default was SDJK instead of DFJK. This was super weird until I realized that Vivid Stasis was made by a team of fellow rhythm game creators. If it hasn't clicked in your head yet, the reason this is so important is because SDJK is what the developers, or at least one of them, uses. That's why this is so unique. It's a perfect example of preference. However, in my opinion, when a rhythm game falls flat is when you can't change those preferences. Example, release Friday Night Funkin'. The release version of Friday Night Funkin' forced you to use arrow keys and WASD. You cannot change your keys to anything that you want. Which made sense, the game was charted around the arrow keys and WASD. However, for veteran fighting game players, for veteran rhythm game players, this was weird and awkward. And it made sense because we were also used to DFJK, ASCL, SDJK, all those, that to us, this just felt weird, dude. Seriously. As such, mods always make sure to offer you the ability to set your keybinds beforehand. One of the best examples of that is Indie Cross. Indie Cross, before you start before you start your first song, always asks you about your keybinds the first time you play it. That is really good, and it immediately tells the player what controls they're gonna use, the ones that they want to pick. Another alternative is a tutorial, like for example, Vivid Stasis. Vivid Stasis at the start uses a tutorial that introduces you to the unique mechanic of the game, which are, how do I call them? I'm gonna call them jointed notes. Jointed notes are the blue and red notes that you see. And the unique thing about them is that the blue notes, you can press them with 1 and 2. 1 and 2 being the line, the bar. As such, for me, 1 and 2 is D and F. As such, I can press this note and it'll register if I either press D or F. Same thing for the red one, but it's vice versa. Anyways, This completely changes the mechanics of its stasis, but we're not here to talk about that. Another thing that I'd like to point out is muscle memory, like I was saying in the video. Players like 8-Bit Ryan, for example, are so used to their frickin' arrow keys that they no longer use, that they don't use the traditional DFJK. They've gotten good with the arrow keys, and that's what they're used to. If you don't believe me, go to any 8-Bit Ryan video and look at him play any Friday Night Funkin' mod. You'll see that he uses the arrow keys. And he uses them well. He's accustomed to it. He found a way to make them viable. Any keybinds are viable as long as you get used to them. And that's it, right? Video's over. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's basically it.